Ahoj, sledujete speciální, úplně první veřejné vysílání GUG.tv. Vysíláme z Google Developer Day v Praze a protože jsme tady na tom místě, máme i zvláštního hosta přímo z Google, je to Bridgette Sexton, ale ještě než se k Bridgette dostaneme, tak Dan Franz nám řekne něco víc o GUG.tv, takže Dane, je to na tobě.
Tak ahoj, nepochybuji, že chcete koukat spíš na Elišku a na Bridgette, takže řeknu skutečně jenom pár slov. Toto vysílání, které sledujete, je historicky první veřejné. Jedná se o projekt, který jsme vymysleli v Čajovně zhruba před půl rokem. Díky iniciativě mnoha lidí v GUG.tv, nemůžu nezmínit ČZ, GUG.tv, Elišku Hutníkovou, Martina Hasmana a všechny další z GUGu, jsme to dotáhli až tady a teď sem. Koncept GUG.tv je prostý, je to interaktivní vývojářská televize. Interaktivní v tom smyslu, že během živého vysílání můžete do vysílání vstupovat. Dneska nebudeme naživo, vysíláme z GDD, jsme omezeni vysílacím pásmem, nicméně již příští přenos bude živě streamovaný, budete moci do něj vstupovat za pomocí Google moderátora, Twitteru, do budoucna i dalších technologií. Struktura rozhovoru zároveň bude dána i tím, co pošlete za otázky předem. Tudíž opět pomocí Google moderátora budete moci zasílat své otázky dalším speakerům. Rovnou prozradím, že další speaker bude Filip Hráček z českého Google, takže dostanete prostor několik týdnů, během kterých můžete vy Elišce nařídit, na co se má Filipa ptát. A zároveň hlasovat o tom, která otázka dává větší smysl. Jsme televize vývojářská, budeme se zabývat tématy zejména technickými a technologickými, nicméně nebojte se, nebudeme kódovat v živém přenosu, spíše nás bude zajímat to, s čím zajímaví vývojáři a lidé kolem internetových technologií, potažmo Googlových technologií přišli, o čem přemýšlejí, jak vyrobili své projekty. Chceme vás hodně inspirovat setkáním s inspirativními lidmi. Televize se velmi vyvíjí, podívejte se na náš web www.gug.tv. Na první pohled je patrné, že jsme ve zrodu, takže očekávejte neustále další vývoj a změny. Sledujte nás, zůstaňte s námi. Teď už dám slovo Elišce a prvnímu rozhovoru, který už i teď je do značné míry vytvořen otázkami, které naši beta testeři vložili do Google moderátora.
Well, and this was the first, not the first, but the last Czech words in this interview. Now let's talk to Bridgette, who is living in Africa. And what is your exact position?
So I'm a program manager for the Google Africa team focused on developer and tech outreach.
Yeah, it sounds really complicated. So what's your exact everyday job?
So every day I wake up and I think, where am I? Because I travel about 90% of the time. And then usually I spend my day working with developers and meeting tech startups and meeting tech businesses. And then organizing Google events and outreach in those countries. So it's really fun. I work primarily in 6 countries in Africa, and spend my day traveling around them and organizing and getting people together and building community. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, well, I have questions here prepared from our viewers by Google Moderator. So I have a few questions. One of them is typical. I think if you talk about Africa, everyone imagines something like National Geographic, like poor people, desert or something. So what is everyday life of African developers you work with?
Yeah, actually that's something that I fight every day, even internally at Google and around giving talks about Africa, is like, it's not what you think it is. There are countries that have children with distilled bellies, and they live with no basic needs or no basic requirements met. But at the same time, there's a huge vibrant tech community in a lot of these countries, or there's vibrant tech communities starting up. Africa kind of has a divide within the continent, probably 3 divides. One is that if a country has no internet connectivity and are using satellite internet still, like Liberia is probably on that level. They had civil war forever. They have satellite internet. They have no computer science programs for universities in the entire country. There's very few computers. Like, it's pretty desperate when it comes to technology. But then you have sort of the spectrum moves up, and you have countries like Ghana and Senegal and Kenya who have fiber. They have really great technical universities and a lot of really engaged developers working there to try to make internet and mobile first off a really awesome opportunity and an awesome experience for all of Africans. So it's pretty amazing, actually.
I have a really interesting question for me that was sent from one of our from the audience. You can probably compare the developers from the Western and Northern Hemisphere. And what could we learn from African developers, and what they could maybe learn from us, or what are they actually learning from us?
So I actually think something that African developers have on the rest of the world is that they have to be entrepreneurs, right? So there's no software companies out there waiting to pick them up. There's no software companies like Google or Microsoft or any startups that are banging down the door saying like, we need developers, even from the top universities. So when they leave school, either they're going to go work as like a network engineer, which just plugs in cables. For the most part, that's all they would do. And then otherwise they might end up working at a bank doing like internal systems. But if they actually want to be a true blood developer, they have to start their own businesses. So they tend to be incredibly creative, really entrepreneurial, and they're not just thinking about creating the next best product, but they're thinking about their users and who's going to use it and why they would use it. And how they can make money from it. So it's really interesting. I think a lot of times you see people here who have great ideas and they're never going to actually do anything with them. Whereas someone in Africa has a great idea, the first thing they come is like, how can I create this? How can I make progress? How can I actually have a business? I think from the rest of the world, they can definitely learn to just even start with more code. Like people often just don't develop smartly. So I find people, almost starting with a blank page. And you're doing your hello world, but that's great. But there's so much back end, there's so much open source work out there. So one of our like key evangelism is trying to teach them, start to build your products smarter. Start with App Engine as a base, or start with any open source tool. Like use Drupal as a content management system. Use something that's open and that's there. Don't start with a blank page. So I think that's one of the bigger things.
Yeah, well, there is a question. If I, not me, the Petra who asked the question, would like to go to Africa for a year and be a developer here, is it possible? Is it realistic?
Yeah, so there's a number of tech hubs around Africa. Kenya mainly is a big one. There's a place there called the iHub, which is like this big tech innovation space. It's free. You can go in, they have 100 megs of dedicated fiber to this building. And there's a lot of places like that, like tech hubs where developers end up coming together and building projects. If you're a really good developer, there are jobs out there. There's a lot of businesses and NGOs looking to build really cool mobile apps, especially looking to build websites that are much more interactive, much more application focused versus just sort of basic HTML. So there's definitely an opportunity.
Okay. Well, of course, you are from Google, so are there any Google technologies or Google products that are especially relevant to developers in Africa more than for us, for example?
Yeah, so probably something, I don't know if people know here, but you can actually use App Engine as an SMS back end. Like you can use SMS messaging and you can use App Engine as your platform. App Engine in general is huge because here it's different. Like you could get a server if you really needed to. You could build all the boxes. You could do all that stuff. But there you can't like supply. There's not even the supply in a lot of places. Or you can, but the cost of maintaining it in an environment where electricity is sometimes going down and there's a lot of like other issues. So I think App Engine is enormous and it gives people a chance to get their feet wet and to actually create something. Otherwise, I think Android, not yet, but will have an enormous impact on the developer community being able to sort of do something in an open community or open source world, put out their apps that are locally relevant, and then actually get some visibility. Like with the OV store or with a number of those other ones, they're never going to be able to get their apps up there. Basically going to always be closed off. So I think that has a lot of potential.
Well, my next question is if I or someone start a project, we usually want to solve some problem, some real life problem, I don't know, file sharing or time management or something. Are those problems that are solved by African developers different from the problems solved in Western Hemisphere? Or?
I mean, some of them are the same, but there are like really, I don't say there's more problems, but there's more problems that have to be solved with an African solution. So like there isn't a payment system, so developers created a mobile payment system, like it's a mobile payment platform that people are using in different countries. There's a lot of uniquely African issues around like currencies that have crazy fluctuations, or water, like water supplies, sanitation, farming, a lot of these things that you just don't find other places as much, market prices in like different markets. So there's a lot more problems that have opportunities behind them that are unique to Africa. So I think the same ones exist, but then there's a whole nother problem set that people can actually, create really amazing apps on.
Yeah. You are talking about Android, that is not quite big, but probably will be. So what's the situation about Android now in Africa, and maybe the operators? Or?
Yeah. So it depends. It's very country by country. There's over 30 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and there's 52, I believe, maybe 53, depending on Sudan's current situation. In Africa. And Africa is huge, and people forget that. When I fly from Ghana to Kenya, which is not even across Africa, it's 7 hours flying straight. Like, that's in a good plane. And if you go from side to side, it's 9.5 hours. And from top to bottom, it's about 9 hours. So that's all landmass. It's huge. So when you're looking at that, I mean, every place is different. So with Android, it's very similar. You have markets that some have like 7 mobile operators, like Uganda, even though it's a fairly small country. And then you have places like Ethiopia who really only have 1 mobile operator because the government's regulated it. And so Android really flourishes in a very competitive market space and in like kind of a democratized space, because that's kind of the meaning of having an open platform. So what we see is in places like Kenya and South Africa, and some starting in places in West Africa as well, that Android's picking up. But in the end of the day, like, Google's not releasing Androids. They're released by manufacturers. So Samsung is really big. It has like 60 or 70% market share, I believe, in South Africa. And so they're pushing Android. So Android's really moving up in that market because that manufacturer is. So it's pretty unique, but we definitely see that the potential is big, and we also see that there's a lot of progress being made. Also, the price of Android phones are going down. There's an Android phone made by Huawei that's just over $100, unlocked. You're not on a plan or anything. It's just an unlocked phone. So that's getting into a price range where sort of the average African could start to begin affording some of those. I think the sweet price is probably more around $60, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
May I interrupt?
Yeah.
It would be quite interesting to hear, and I don't know how much you can share about it, but what's Google's strategy in Africa in general?
Yeah.
Does it differ anyway from strategy in Europe, Asia?
Yeah, definitely. So for us, we're not in Africa right now to make money. We're in Africa to build the internet ecosystem. And we see that in 15 years, in 10 years, we'll start to make money there. But we make money when the internet is better. The reason we work with developers is because you build better apps. Somehow in this vicarious situation, Google probably makes money, right? But that's like the very removed. In Africa, we are primarily looking at access, so granting access. What that means is we work a lot to look at how do we map infrastructure, fiber, all of the fiber cables. How do the fiber cables connect? How does everything work together? How do we optimize the actual amount of bandwidth coming in? And we don't own those, but it's sort of looking at it from a Google perspective, I think we can offer a lot. We also have a program called Google University Access Program. We're actually bringing Wi-Fi and internet to major universities across Africa. So right now we just launched in Nigeria, and I'm not sure the exact number, but I think it's around 30,000 students now have internet access that didn't before. And then we work with manufacturers to bring in low-cost netbooks. And all of this is not under Google.org. This is something that Google is very invested in. Then we work with content holders, so magazines, newspapers, to help them bring their information online. And we're just in the whole thing is we have like a picture of what the internet ecosystem looks like. And we're just trying to touch every point we can in order to make sure that it flourishes. And my piece is the developer. So how do we get developers there to create the apps that no one else will? And I think that's actually, I talk about it all the time at developer events. No one is coming in here. There's no Walmart of technology coming in here and building apps for your community. You're so lucky. Like, do it yourself. So the whole strategy is really around access and content. And in the wrong time, like price, like trying to drop the price of data plans on phones and trying to help drop the price of internet. So at this point, it's still very engineering. Like, we're all under engineering because we want to be there as engineers. We want to create products that are local.
Bridgette byla spolu s dalšími Googlery hostem a porodcem na GUG.cz hackathonu, který přímo předcházel pražskému Google Developer Day. Po jeho skončení k překvapení mnohých ukázala, že není jen schopným manažerem, ale také dobrým hudebníkem.
What I hear is that Google in Africa is trying to, in plain words, build the internet, not necessarily branded by Google. And there are so many misconceptions about Africa, which I have myself. And what do you see as the obstacles to that? Is it politics? Is it technology? Is it attitude? Is it education? What's the biggest challenge for you in that?
I think Africa in general's education is probably number one. But then also another one is actually global perception. So these are my personal views, they're not Google, but like the BBC, the World News, every sort of media house, all the NGOs have really branded Africa. And Africans are a little bit resentful of it. They want to have businesses, they want to have an economy that functions on its own. Like if you go to Nigeria and you're trying to hand out money, people will take it. But if you go, I go to events all the time and I say, I'm not going to give you guys any money. Here's some education, here's some tools. If you want to have a living, go build it yourself. And the response for that versus me saying, here's $5,000 for everyone is actually much more positive. So I think education is fundamental and something that I think as the internet becomes more relevant will help. I mean, you imagine a lot of classrooms don't have books, but at the same time, there's incredibly smart people who are very entrepreneurial. And NGOs, if you think about the ecosystem of like an economy, NGOs come in and they take a lot of jobs. Like, to be rude, they bring a lot of jobs, but they also take jobs. And what I mean is they come and like, there's all these random hacks of kindness, which is great. It's a really cool thing. They bring a bunch of problem statements, they bring a bunch of developers together and they fix the problem. So that's actually a job. If you think about it, all these people are actually doing a job for free that one of them could have gotten paid to do, or three of them. And so, I mean, I think it's a great event, and I would support them, and I support them personally as Google, like making sure that that happens. But if you kind of put that on a macro scale, you're looking at a lot of people not having work because there's NGOs that come in and fill in. And what a lot of times, so the head of Google Africa always says to me, Bridgette, give Africans their own problems and they will solve it. But what the world has done is they've come in, they've taken their problems from Africa and they've said, here's the solution, here's the check, go do it. And then that guy sees the check, he realizes that the solution isn't that great, and he just puts it in his pocket and walks away. So that's something as Google, we're not there to like impose anything. And that's why I tell developers all the time, like, I don't care if you leave this and build nothing, in the sense of I'm not benefiting from it, because they want to know what I'm getting out of it. What I'm benefiting from is the chance to teach, you know, how do you use Maps API to map, or MapMaker to map your village that's never been on maps. And that's actually an opportunity. So I think education is obviously biggest, but I think also like perception and sort of this idea of taking problems.
Yeah, so could you please name some or mention some really cool or really successful, maybe internationally successful project developed by African developers?
Yeah, there's a few. There's one that's like world-renowned. It's called Ushahidi. It's a Swahili word and it means witness or testimony. And Ushahidi is a crowdsourcing platform that was born out of the 2008 election violence in Kenya. I don't know to say Nairobi, but in Kenya. And basically what it is it allows people to SMS or text or type or use the internet to talk about crimes and talk about any issues. And basically they use some geomodifier and it goes on a map and it allows people to pinpoint where acts of violence or things are happening. And it gives a voice to the people. And this was actually used in the Haiti crisis as well. And it's been used all globally, and that team sits in Kenya. They just built a really cool new Android app, by the way. So if you look up their blog, they just published their Android app. And then there's a lot of startups, like there's one called Niger Places that I'm working with. It's basically like a Google Places. Niger is in Nigeria, they call Nigeria Niger versus Nigeria. So Niger Places basically allows people to go around and collect data, collect locations using any kind of phone. And then it also allows them to search. So you can say, if you have an SMS phone, you could say, I'm in this neighborhood, and it will like pull up like embassies around you or restaurants or things, which seems small, but it's, I mean, that's a massive task for a small group of developers to take on. Yeah. And I've seen a lot. There's a Ghana's developer group, it's a Google group, and they are always taking on projects, like they're trying to fix the city's lights and develop applications that time the lights correctly for all of the, I mean, there's like a roundabout, and then there's a road, and then there's a light, and then there's another roundabout, and it like doesn't make sense, so they're trying to make sense of things like that. Yeah. There's a group of developers who are doing, what's the right term? So they're trying to do maps and trying to do directions, but it's all based on monuments or like known, why can't I think of the word? Like known places around the city. So instead of there being a street sign, because there aren't a lot of times street signs, it's like go past this church and then turn right at the big tree, and then, but everyone knows those, right? So that's really been helpful as well.
You don't have Google Developer Days, like this one is in Africa, but you have another events.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the difference? Or?
Yeah, we have what we call G-Africa Days. We actually have a website for the group G-Africa. Basically what it is a way for us to interact with developers, but also fill their needs. So we didn't want to do Google Developer Days branded the way it is, because we wanted to be able to serve the needs of the tech and business communities. So we have a 2-day event. The first day is for developers and computer science students. Yeah. And they come, they learn about Google technologies. We have a competition with building App Engine and Google Web Toolkit apps, which is really fun. And we give out Nexus 1s, like it's just a good day. And then the second day is business. So we talk about, analytics and, website optimizer and search-friendly development, and try to teach people, okay, you have this app, or you have this idea, how do you then make a business? Yeah. Because like I said, everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, so that's a really key element. It's something you don't need here. A lot of people don't need to do that, need to go and make a business. So.
Yeah. Well, we are almost close to the end of the interview. I want to ask some things about you and your way to Africa.
Yeah.
So you are from United States, and you work for Google for how long?
About 2.5 years.
And in Africa you are?
I've been here about 8 months. Not here. I've been there about 8 months.
Okay. So they forced you to go to Africa, or how did you get there?
No, it's actually funny. It's a really funny story. I'll make it brief. But I used to work in AdWords actually as a consultant for agencies. Yeah. And this was kind of like AdWords was around, but we were trying to teach them how to be a digital media house. Like how do you think about digital? How do you explain it? And I liked my job, but I worked in Peru, in Nicaragua, and Thailand before, and I have just this earning to get abroad. So I found this Google Africa team that at the time was like 2 people, and said, hey, I'll do anything. I'll do any work. Like Google has this 20% thing. So I was like, I'll do 20% or 50% or whatever, just any work. So I did that for about a year. And eventually there's 12 hours difference between Kenya and Mountain View. So I was working like 24 hours. And I just said, I can't do this. So I went to both teams and I said, guys, I'm going to quit something. So good luck. Like whatever you want me to do is fine, but I'm quitting. So then neither of them said anything, so I got a new job. And I took this job in London, and a Saturday morning, the vice president of Google for product engineering in Europe called me. I never met this guy before. Yeah. He's like, Bridgette? I'm like, yes? He's like, this is Nelson. I was like, hello, hi. And he goes, don't take this job in London. I said, I already took the job. He's like, just wait, talk to me Monday, 8 a.m. It's like, okay, so I get to work. I'm thinking, there's nothing this guy can do to change my mind. I have no idea who he is, but he's actually quite, he's a vice president, so that's crazy. So I get on this, video conference, and he's like, so if you were going to do anything in Africa, what would you want to do? And I said, I would like to enable entrepreneurs, like technology, to actually flourish there. I want people to make money and to, develop skills and make the internet better. And he said, okay, you can do that. So we have offices in 6 countries. You know where they are. Where would you like to live? So I was just sitting there. This is like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, can I call my parents? I just said Ghana. I just threw it out there. And then afterwards, I had to look it up, exactly where it is. And so I said, okay, done. When do you want to move? And I said, well, I quit my job, so I have to like do something in like 2 weeks. And he said, okay. It was nice to meet you. And then that day, he like moved me to report under him and wrote this letter to like all my managers and everyone saying, Bridgette is quit her job, not taking this job in London, she's not doing this. So I just left work and I walked around and I'm gonna die. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. So I called my family and just moved. So, but it's been awesome, like really incredible. Yeah.
Since then you're in Africa.
Yeah, so I've been there. I haven't been home since March.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for an interesting interview.
Cool,
Good luck in
thank
Africa,
you.
good luck at Google, and good luck.
Yeah,
to
you guys should come
everything.
anytime, really.
Oh, great. We will.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Přejdeme do češtiny. Příští vysílání GUG TV proběhne 7. prosince a už víme, kdo to bude, kdo bude tím hostem, kterého se vy sami můžete ptát prostřednictvím Google moderátora na GUG.cz. Na téhleté webové adrese najdete spoustu informací a kdo to bude, bude to Filip Hráček. Takže už teď můžete na Filipa, který je tady od toho, aby vlastně se staralo české vývojáře za Google, tak na toho už si můžete připravit otázky, položit je a my se potom přímo v přímém přenosu v GUG TV Filipa zeptáme. Zatím se loučíme, ahoj z Google Developer Day.